Welcome back to Bound News Network. We are actually working on Chapter 10 of Volume 1. We've come quite a bit as far as going over quite a bit of brand new vocabulary and incorporating them into our lessons here. We hope that you are benefiting from our perfect English grammar tutorial. It's going to be an ongoing tutorial with several volumes. There should be at least 10 chapters in each volume, so there's going to be a lot more material. As we get further into the volume set, we're actually going to focus a lot more on the usage of the words as we build and accumulate our vocabulary in preparation for TOEFL, SAT, and even other standardized exams. You should be able to benefit from this information. Before we get into the heavier parts of this chapter 10, by all means, please smash that like button and subscribe, and also hit the notification bell for future chapters, future volumes of perfect English grammar. With that said, let's take a look at the answer sheet from the previous chapter 9. Here we have the revealed answers for our previous vocabulary set. We start with ameliorate, which is a synonym would be improve. Deprecate. Deprecate would be synonym would be reject, and then obstinate would be unyielding. We have proximity, which is nearness. Querulous would be a synonym would be petulant, and then we have spurious, and we have a synonym would be fake, and transitory would be fleeting. So these are the 12 from the previous chapter 9. Then this is the answer key. Basically, we're actually, as you remember and recall from our previous chapters, we focus on synonyms simply because a lot of times the synonym of the word will actually appear in a passage on the exam versus the actual word. So you do need to be able to map the synonym to the word, or the word to the synonym, so that you'll actually be, your skill set will actually be quite improved. Let's take a, as we prepare for going further into the lessons, we should take a look at some of the new words that we're going to be looking at today. So we're looking at alacrity. We're also looking at decorous. We're looking at dovetail. We're looking at ethos. We're looking at nuisance, just to name a few. So before we actually do that, let's just take a look at one of the reading comprehension exercises. As we go further into the program, you'll actually see that we spend a lot more time on reading comprehension exercises as we expand our vocabulary. We want to start using some of those words that we pick up in the different chapters. So the words that are in blue here are words that we have actually covered in previous chapters of volume 1. So here we have, they are people who have received the flu shot, and having experienced torpid effects, they have resorted to preaching trite conspiracy theories without realizing the deleterious nature of such theories. So we want to make sure that we are able to at least use several of the actual vocabulary terms that we learn with each chapter in actual passages, and this will also increase your recall powers when it comes to the exam, because you would have seen them actually used using different techniques such as our synonym mapping and matching exercise, as well as our reading comprehension exercise, which should help you to map these words to actual usage and how they're actually used in a sentence. Also, we have here another passage, reading comprehension exercise. According to the data from various studies, Instagram and Facebook are contributing to high school seniors' indifferent attitude towards the study of fine arts as a college major, which also corroborates claims that some high school seniors are exhibiting a listless and vapid response towards modern poetry recitals in class. So here we have another passage actually using 3 of the words that we picked up, and we try to put it in a passage so that you can actually have a strong grasp of how the words are actually used, whether they're used as an adjective or adverb or a pronoun or a noun, and how you can actually use them to conjugate. And also, this allows you to go over the actually go over the pronunciation of the word, which further helps you to remember, because some of these words will have a root, or they will also have prefix or suffix, and that will allow you to increase your retention of the actual meaning of the word, along with mapping it to an appropriate synonym. And let's take another look. Here we have further reading comprehension exercises incorporating a few of the words we learned earlier. If any of these words are unfamiliar to you, please, by all means, you can always go back to the previous chapters here on YouTube, and you'll be able to pick up, find those words and learn the meaning, and actually learn how they're actually used. So here we have, as the issue of climate change garners more attention globally, it's important that the leaders of the wealthiest nations commit to crafting meticulous long-term agreements that execute precipitous plans to ameliorate the effects of carbon emissions on the quality of the air we breathe. So that would actually be one of the passages there, and we actually see three of the words that we actually use. And that actual word is actually pronounced perspicacious. I apologize for that. So to execute perspicacious plans to ameliorate the effects of carbon emissions on the quality of the air we breathe. So that passage 3, tests your reading comprehension for 3 of the words that we used: meticulous, and then we have also perspicacious and ameliorate. And those are 3 of the words that we actually went over in previous chapters. Let's take a look at another reading passage, and we're going to be doing a lot more of these passages, which will significantly increase your recall powers when it comes to the testing. With the midterm 2022 elections just around the corner, a few politicians are resorting to querulous tactics to gain votes, to control the narrative of their respective political party, to vilify anyone who objects to their narrative, and thereby turn them into a political pariah. So there are 3 words that we actually covered earlier: querulous, vilify, and pariah. And you can actually return to any of the chapters to see how the actual name of the definition of that word, as well as its respective synonym. And of course, with that said, keep in mind also that we also look at idioms as we exit chapter 1 and start working on as we exit volume 1 and start working on volume 2. It's important for us to just touch base real quickly on the idioms, some of the more popular idioms that we learned in volume 1. So we can just quickly brush over them, and then we're going to jump into a new set of 12 exciting vocabulary words that you're going to be adding to your repertoire for us going into volume 2 for reading comprehension. So we have barking up the wrong tree, bend over backwards, blue collar, and then we have ahead of the curve, money to burn, bitter pill to swallow, bring home the bacon, cut to the chase, he who pays the piper calls the tune, and we have in for a penny, in for a pound, it's not rocket science, and then we have the word kickback. So those are 12 idioms that we actually looked at prior to actually getting that we actually covered in volume 1, and we're now in chapter 10. So with that said, let's take a look at some of these words that we're going to be expanding our vocabulary with. And as we expand our vocabulary, these are going to be tools that you'll be able to add to increasing your recall power, because we're going to be using them in reading comprehension exercises. We're going to spend a lot more time on reading comprehension exercises now that we've built up quite a bit of a vocabulary. And as we increase our vocabulary and get closer to that ultimate goal of going over at least 500 of the most common words that you may find on the TOEFL and SAT exams, then you'll be able to start really incorporating them into actual reading passages, which is going to significantly increase your ability to test higher on these exams, because your comprehension extends not only from the actual knowing the actual definition of the word, but then you'll actually be able to brain map the synonym, and then you'll also be able to increase your recall powers because you actually used it in a reading comprehension exercise. And that is a goal of this series, to go from actually knowing what a word means to actually using it, and also may appear in a more popular idiom also. So we have our first word here, and it's going to be alacrity. Sample sentence. The math club approached the training exercise with alacrity in preparation for the national conference. Noun meaning brisk and cheerful willfulness. And then we have our second word, and that second word is going to be apocryphal. Apocryphal. And the sample sentence: when asked about her position on Russian politics, the president stated that her apocryphal hypothesis about the end of the Cold War. Adjective meaning false or fictitious. Bygone. Sample sentence: every now and then, UFC fighters need to let bygones be bygones. And that could also be an idiom that actually is used quite a bit. So the word bygone, adjective meaning from the past, and then we have our idiom inserted there: let bygones be bygones. And correct pronunciation of apocryphal. So that is a correct pronunciation of apocryphal. So these three words that we looked at here, brand new, that we're adding to our repertoire, is going to be alacrity, apocryphal, and bygone. And then when we take a look at our next set, we have decorous. Sample sentence: the Catholic priest will be terribly missed by his clergy. He was a decorous person who helped so many people living in poverty. And that's going to be an adjective meaning good taste or polite or proper. Demur. Sample sentence: the student president took the high road ethically when he decided to demur the school's dress code policy. Could be a verb or a noun, meaning raise doubts for moral reasons. And you may have seen this word before quite a bit, injected in quite a bit of different passages. Dovetail. Sample sentence: the carpenter was meticulous in his attention to dovetailing the sections of his dining table. Verb meaning to piece together or fit together. So we have decorous, demur, and we have dovetail. And in our next set of new words that we're adding to our vocabulary going forward into Volume 2 very shortly is ethos. Sample sentence: the doctor demonstrated firm ethos in recommending that his patient elect surgery as the most effective cancer treatment. Noun meaning character or personality, or disposition. Imbue, and that would be imbue. Sample sentence: the chef paid very close attention to imbue the marinade for the beef with rosemary. Verb meaning to saturate throughout or permeate. Laconic. Sample sentence. The history teacher took a laconic approach in explaining the impetus of the American Civil War out of fear of offending anyone's political sensitivity. Adjective meaning, use very few words, concise or succinct. So these are three new words that we're looking at, and here we have words that we're going to be looking at as far as nuance, sample sentence. During the marriage therapy session, therapist paid very close attention to the subtle nuances in her body language and facial expressions. Noun meaning subtle difference or variation. And then we have prosaic, sample sentence. It was clearly obvious that the president delivered the most prosaic speech possible to avoid questions. Adjective meaning commonplace or boring. And then we have slew, sample sentence. When shopping at Costco, shoppers are used to being offered a slew of product offers. Noun meaning a large quantity or bundle. So here we have our exercise for synonym matching for chapter 10. So we have, just to go over the words that we have here with their correct pronunciation: alacrity, apocryphal, bygone, decorous, demure, dovetail, ethos, imbue, laconic, nuance, prosaic, and slew. And just to spot check a few of the synonyms, because we've actually gone over the definition, we can see here that let's start with ethos. Ethos, we saw there was disposition. And then for nuance, we know that that's a no-brainer there. Nuance, a variation. Slew, we touched on, was bundle. And then you can go ahead and fill out the rest, and we'll look for the answer sheet for our next chapter, which will be Volume 2, Chapter 1. And we're going to be doing a lot more of these reading passages that we went over today for reading comprehension. We're going to focus a lot more also on actual grammar. So now that we're building a firm base for our vocabulary, then we're going to spend a lot more looking at grammar, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, how they're actually used, different types of methods of sentence construction, and also increasing your comprehension skills with different types of memory techniques going into chapter 1 of volume 2. So now we're going to pay more attention to structure, reading comprehension exercises, incorporating the words that we've learned not only in the current chapter but also previous chapters. So by all means, make sure you make a list of your words and a quick definition, synonym, so that once we start doing a lot more reading comprehension exercises, then you'll be able to actually keep up and increase your comprehension and recall powers of these terms. So with that said, we're actually looking at starting our Volume 2 Chapter 1 very, very shortly. We'll be uploading that to YouTube as soon as it's ready. And by all means, make sure that you click that notification bell so that you get notified. So now you can kind of pat yourself on the back. You've completed Volume 1, which was 10 chapters. Each volume will have at least 10 chapters. And then we're going to keep working towards getting a list of those 500 words, the most common words that will appear, and their tricky synonyms. Pay very close attention to these synonym matching answer sheets that we provide to you. They're very, very important. There's a lot of techniques that we're using here to help you increase your recall power as far as brain mapping the word to the actual synonym, and we hope that that's going to help you with your recall powers. And you can always come back to any of these chapters as far as increasing your knowledge set as far as how the word is used, and continue to expand your vocabulary. We hope to increase your vocabulary by several hundred words, most common words that will appear on these exams, so that you're going to be fully prepared going into the exams. And it doesn't hurt to go back to the previous chapters and just quickly run over some of the definitions and take notes along the way. And as we go further into the reading comprehension part of these volumes, then it's going to be very important that you have a solid base as far as what all the different vocabulary words that we used, as well as your synonyms prior to each chapter, so that you'll be able to stay on track with our reading comprehension exercises and the different test formats that we're going to incorporate, so that you'll be prepared for your exam. So thank you for tuning in to our latest chapter of Perfect English Grammar, Vol.1 Chapter 10. We hope it was really beneficial for you. And by all means, you can actually share these videos with friends who are actually preparing for these exams also, simply by smashing that share button. So we hope that it will definitely serve you. And of course, these will always be on YouTube to assist students going forward. And thank you for tuning in to Bow News Network. We appreciate all of your support and ongoing appreciation of these tutorials to help you not only prepare for these exams, but just increase your knowledge of modern business English, and all the different skills that come with increasing your English grammar skills. Well, have a great day. Thank you. Have a good